Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build for the Disney Save. Today we are working on a new movie in Tartosa. This is a Fantasia themed wedding venue lot. This lot you might recognize as one that I have already done for Tartosa because this is going to be a replacement lot option for this very same lot. Originally I had created a wedding venue based on the I Won't Say I'm in Love scene from Hercules. That's Meg's little number from the movie, and it's this really beautiful, sprawling Greek garden with lots of levels and references from that film. It's designed to be an indoor and an outdoor wedding venue, but it also has like a traditional ancient Greek sort of vibe to the whole thing. It's very diverse. There's so many different like types of weddings that you could throw there, and it's one of the few options I have offered so far for wedding venues that are offering an indoor option. But the idea was presented by some patrons when we were originally planning Tartosa to make something based on Fantasia. Very specifically, there is a number in the movie called Pastoral Symphony, and it takes place in the, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but it's called the Elysian Fields, and that is, according to Disney Wiki, I'm just going to read it to you guys, the final resting place of the souls of the heroic and virtuous in Greek mythology and religion. So it's this number that has a lot of mythological animals, including like centaurs and cherubs and mermaids and things going through the fields. It's also sort of relevant because there are depictions of other Greek gods in the number, including Zeus and Dionysus, so it kind of relates to Hercules there in that sense, but it's really beautiful. It's super colorful. It has all of these characters running through the fields and the trees, and a lot of them are pairing off and finding relationships and finding love, and it's just like one of the more colorful, light, fun numbers of the film. However, it does have a dark twist to it. There is like a moment where it gets really dark and there's a storm that comes and everything in the movie, so it's not all fun and happy, but it's one of the more beautiful, and I think one that like stands out if you think of Fantasia and you know Fantasia, or you haven't seen it in a while. It's one that you're probably gonna remember. The other reason that this made sense to do here is because Tartosa has an in-game location that is like a waterfall and a pond that you can swim in, and that area in Tartosa very much resembles some of the areas that are shown in the Pastoral Symphony. So there's kind of some relationship there as well, and it totally just brought the correct vibes. I was mostly excited to do this because I just kept thinking how bright and colorful this would be, and how I could use some of the more funky looking plants, like those really bright pink and purple and rainbow flowers, and have it be something that's very magical looking and just, again, different, as I'm typically going for whenever I make something for the save file. My goal is to always bring a new idea and have basically nothing repeat. So this was a new wedding option, new movie, really exotic looking plants, and I knew at the end of the day it wouldn't take me that long to add something else as an option because this is going to be largely outdoors. The area where you actually get married with the wedding arch is under the main building at the top of the hill, and there are some seating arrangements and things like that for guests, but the lot largely is designed to be more of like a really pretty garden with waterfalls and flowers and things like that. And of course it has nods to the number from Fantasia, but it isn't something that's like super elaborate like that other garden was, where I knew I would be doing like an indoor section, an outdoor section, and that one had so many more nods to the film that it's coming from. At the end of the day, Fantasia is not a super big movie to be featuring in the Disney Save. I'm not going to be focusing on it all that much, and it won't get probably too much more attention. Even like what it's gotten, I think, is a little bit surprising. I do have Chernobog in the save. He is the big bad from Fantasia, and he lives in Forgotten Hollow, and the mountain range and the castle that is built on the lot that he lives in is called Bald Mountain, which is also a reference to Fantasia. So that being said, I probably will not do Fantasia too much, but this was an instance that it definitely made sense to do so. And it gives people a second option for this lot if you want something that isn't so traditional looking, and it doesn't really match like other things that I've done for wedding builds specifically, but if you want just more of a pretty looking garden with the waterfalls, there's definitely gameplay and storytelling purposes that you could want this here as well. So it's just another option. It's a replacement lot at the end of the day, and I hope you guys like it. It will be the only Fantasia lot for for this world. We are going to be moving on to Luca very shortly after this one. I'll be starting immediately into the first speed build. It's not a residential, it is going to be a commercial lot, so we'll be getting into those characters. And if you haven't seen Luca yet, I highly recommend checking it out. It's such an underrated film amongst the Disney library because presumably it came out sort of during COVID times, and it is a little bit shorter than the full-length feature films that they release in theaters for Pixar, but it is such a good one. It's one that I have really enjoyed. I loved it the first time I saw it, but I watched it again recently in preparation for some of the things that are coming up, and it brought tears to my eyes once again, so prep yourself a little bit and go watch it before we start putting out some Luca content. I have decided to name this wedding venue the Elysian Fields. I think that makes so much sense considering that it is completely surrounded by Greek mythology everywhere around it. This lot is located right next to Hercules' mansion and right across from Olympus, so it is just surrounded by Greek mythology, and it makes sense that this is tied in this way. Like I mentioned, Dionysus and Zeus are shown in the number from Fantasia that this is a part of, so their depiction in that as well was like an easy translation for me. Disney had shown them before, and Disney isn't shy about like their interest in Greek mythology. They have other references to Greek mythology in other Disney things that are not Hercules, but it was cool to see like another artistic version of how they had drawn the two characters and having like little references to both of those characters at this lot as well. One of those things being that there's a huge scene where Dionysus is like sitting on a throne and there's all these barrels of wine everywhere, and then one of them gets really big and floods, and there's a big flood that is just wine. So originally I thought maybe I would make one of these ponds red because then it would be red like the wine, but it threw the lot off pretty bad and it kind of took away from it in a sense. So instead I just have some fountains that are hidden and tucked into the rocks and some barrels that have fountains coming out of them that I have chosen the red light color for, and it gives the look of like red water coming out. That way it's referenced, but it's not like crazy. It looks a little bit too much like other things, if you catch my drift. So I just didn't like the way that it looked, but the reference is there. That's all that matters at the end of the day. There are also lots of Pegasus in this music number. That is one of the big things for it. There are centaurs. Those are also a huge feature. The Pegasus themselves, they fly around a lot, but there were two in particular. There's like this stark black and white one. They're a little bit bigger. There's presumably like mom and dad, and they live in a giant nest in a tree. So I knew I wanted that reference somewhere in this build. It's very mild, the version that I did for it, because we don't have like a giant bird's nest that I was able to size up properly, but I did create something for the reference there. And then the cherubs, they would have been nice in the form of statues. I did pop a couple of those romantic garden stuff statues around here and there, but I wanted this to be more like organic and nature leaning, less so than how I did the very heavy statue decoration in the I Won't Say I'm in Love wedding venue. So I wanted to go different directions. I didn't want to lean too much into the romantic garden statues, and we don't actually have any that are cherubs. So that was a little bit disappointing because I definitely would have just saved those ideas for this lot. But since we didn't have it anyway, I just put a couple of statues here and there kind of in reference to them. And there is a scene where they are on some swings, and the swings actually look very similar to the ones that I think they come from the Outdoor Campers pack or one of those like kits. So there's some swings here to kind of shout that out. I also thought this was a really great opportunity to use some of the rainbow wedding arches that I haven't gotten to use yet. I thought it was colorful, it matched the lot, it's very pretty, and I stuck that one in here and it suited the lot very well. This wouldn't work super great for like a huge full-scale wedding if you wanted to do the whole cake cutting and have a bar and a party here. It doesn't really have everything to do that. I wanted to focus more on the garden. This is more like you'll probably do your ceremony here and then you would go somewhere else for the reception. I don't think that's really how weddings work in The Sims, but you get the idea. Like in real life, that's definitely an option that you would have. So I wanted to have that because I think that there's a lot of reasons that you would even want to maybe just do like a quick wedding, but have it still be a really pretty backdrop. And you don't have to use this as a wedding lot. Something that I really encourage is anything that you want as like decoration and you're like, this'll work well, but I don't need it for anything in particular, just change it to a generic lot type, or you can keep it as the wedding if you want to. But if you keep it as just like a general community lot, you can have it as backdrop setting and you can just kind of drift there as needed for storytelling purposes. is. One of the big features that I was really keen to try something new for this lot was creating my own tree. I've had this idea for a while, and it's mostly because I find that although we do have some trees in the catalog that are a little bit more interesting in color, we don't have too many that like go together super nicely. I don't know how else to say that. There is the one tree that I've used here very repetitively. I think it comes from the movie Hangout Stuff hack, but then there are basically no other ones that I was satisfied with because some of them are like cherry blossom trees. They're early base game trees. They don't have as high quality as some of the newer pieces that we've gotten. And then a lot of the trees are obviously just very standardly green, or they have some flowers in them, but they're super tropical looking. They don't suit the area. I wanted it to all like fit together. So I've been thinking for a while that I should start trying to make some of my own trees if I can find some trunks that are naked essentially in the catalog. And I found this one, and I was really interested to maybe take some of the bushes that I had been using all over that have these beautiful, really exotic looking purple leaves on them and try to make a tree out of it. So I placed each one all over the branches in different layers, trying to like really bulk it up in a way that looks very natural to a tree, but also disguises the fact that I'm using flower bushes over and over again. And ultimately, I really think it works, and I'm really happy with the result. It's definitely something I'm going to be trying in future builds, but I don't really need it unless I want to make something that's very specific, and in this circumstance, that was definitely the case. I wanted to tie in the colors of all of these plants that I was using and these bushes, but I needed it in tree format, that same like shade of purpley pink that was going on, and I didn't want to use this movie Hangout Stuff tree over and over and over again, so I thought I would just try something kind of unique. That ends up being the tree that has the Pegasus nest in it, and you can see that I took a basket and kind of sized it up and wedged it in the tree there. It's not perfect by any means, but it gets the idea across if you're familiar with the number. And ultimately, it's really pretty, and it's something that I'll use again in the future when it becomes necessary. I can think in particular like Glimmerbrook a little bit when I try to do maybe some more fairy movies or some more magic movies. That definitely might come up as backdrop. So I'm excited that that worked out, because it's always fun to like kind of do a new technique and learn something new as well and teach myself new things that I can be doing amongst my builds. This lot also looks very pretty on the world map overview of Tartosa. It doesn't match the other Hercules builds, obviously, so it is a little bit out of place in terms of what I've already built, but not as much as you might think. Because it's so like ethereal looking and it's got like a lot of colors, there's something just like exotic about it and you're really drawn to it, but it's pretty and it matches in that sort of sense. Like all the other Hercules builds have a lot of like the clean white marbling and they're a little bit basic with the greenery and stuff like that, but that's what makes it even, I think, like fit better in a way. One thing that I was desperate for throughout this entire build, and I still don't know why The Sims hasn't added this in, because I think that this is such a overlooked easy thing to have to up the customization of building, would be to add in like colored stone paths or just like colored grass. There's so many reasons why you would want to be able to possibly draw on that ground level with colors like straight up purples and pinks. Give me like purple, pink, blue, yellow, brick, stone, grass, flowers that I can just kind of paint around here and there, and that really would have done it for this lot. I would have went absolutely wild with all of that, but I have needed it for other reasons in the past. Like it would have just been nice to add blue shading around a pond or yellow bricks, or like even a rainbow brick, something that looks like it's made of opal or something shiny. It really kind of, it seems like something that might be easy to add in, and it's definitely something that's available on the CC market, but as you guys know, we don't use CC here for the Disney Save, so that's just something I really wanted to use. I ended up settling for, I think this is a cottage living pack, and it has little pink flowers in between the stones. It's as close to kind of what I was looking for as you could get, but it's not really what I'm looking for. In this particular music number, it is all over the ground, like there's just so much color, and I really wanted to be able to literally draw it all over and have the hills be colorful and be able to do like lots of blue and purple and pink, and I think I got it across with what we do have in the catalog without having those special options available. I've been working on the Luca lots for a bit now before you guys are seeing today's video, and they're a lot smaller than some of the Hercules builds and things that I've been doing. There's also less of them, so we're going to be through Luca pretty quick and quickly coming up on the end of Tartosa. I think I have 4 lots left by the time you guys are seeing this video, and 3 of them are Luca, and I already have almost all 3 of those done, so I'm really excited to show you those. They're a completely different direction than Hercules and Fantasia, obviously, and then there will be one more additional movie for this world that's only getting 1 lot, but it is a residential, and some of you have already guessed it in the comments of previous videos, and some of you I think are not really expecting it, which means I think I will be done with Tartosa within the next 3 weeks or so, and that means my patrons also get to vote on what we will be doing for the next world. I have a feeling what it will be, but it also could change. I was surprised that Tartosa won in the first place, so who knows? I'm also leaning towards like every few worlds or so that my patrons pick, I might just pick one because I feel like I have to like overrule a little bit just for like the sake of diversity and the sake of maybe doing worlds that I think people are not as excited about. But if you gave me a chance and you wait to see like the plans and the movies that are going there, you'll be more excited like once we're doing it. It's kind of like going to the gym. Like you're not really excited to be driving there, but once you get there and you're like all ready to go, you're like, this isn't that bad. And then you get there and you're like, okay, this is actually kind of nice. It's kind of like that vibe. That's definitely how people felt for Evergreen Harbor because the world was brand new at the time and nobody really wanted to do it. I think because they just couldn't see the vision. And I was like, no, we got to do this. I'm really excited. And it ended up being my Pixar world. And I think it's definitely a fan fave. So I'm excited, I'm saying, to see what people pick, but I might every couple of times or so just pick my own. And I know that there's ones that I've been leaning towards that I think I'm more interested in maybe doing some of the more modern films, like some Incredibles, Monsters Inc., some of those like City Living World possibly, or Del Sol Valley. But I don't know, my mind also changes all the time. I have been actually looking for work here in the UK as well, so I am back to work, which means that balancing the Disney save becomes a little bit more difficult, and that's why some things have slowed down at least a little bit. I was traveling and there were other personal things going on, but I am also currently looking for work, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to do what I do here on a more consistent basis, but I do always keep it going and keep it trucking, so we will definitely have much more to come. Let me know what you thought of today's video of the Elysian Fields, and if you are excited for Luca as well. If you'd like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in my description box down below or the one at the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will talk to you all in the next one.